Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wellness Wednesdays. And thank you for coming and checking out our blog today. I wanted to check in with you guys just about something that we all are just kind of managing and dealing with right now, and that is grief and loss. During this time, we all are dealing with some type of loss at this time because just during a pandemic, we all have lost something. And while grief and loss is something that we all might have experienced, our children, this may be the first time that they are experiencing grief and loss. And so I know sometimes we think about grief in the sense of like when we lose like a person or when someone dies. And some of our children may be experiencing that as well. But I also want to talk about grief and loss from more of a holistic type of perspective and just look at just loss in general. And right now, during this pandemic, we all, as I mentioned, have lost something. So that's what I want to talk about today, just grief and loss in general. And focus that on our children, actually. Now, many of our children are experiencing loss for the first time. And loss from that perspective that they might be feeling is a new experience for a lot of them. And I want everyone just to understand and realize that whether it's grief because of the loss of a loved one or family member or relative, just loss in itself is loss, and it is a feeling that is hurtful and painful and devastating and traumatic. And that is something that we just need to be able to acknowledge and be able to address and be able to process. And so some of the losses that our children and young people might be feeling right now is just the loss of a traditional routine, their friendships, their in-person connections, their peer interactions, their social lives, school activities, sports, clubs, extracurricular activities, their favorite teachers and staff members, just outside play, and just life as it used to be. And that is compounded loss that just a lot of our kids, children, and young people just aren't used to. And so they're trying to figure out how to balance all of this and just go on with their regular lives as they normally would. And that's hard for them to do right now. And so, what I would like to do is just offer some ways to support them during this time right now. And so, how do we help them grieve with that loss or those losses that they're experiencing? So I have some suggestions for that. So one, acknowledge their grief. Attentively listen to them and allow them to express themselves, and then acknowledge how they are feeling. And some possible statements that you can use to acknowledge their grief when they share those things with you is just say to them, I hear what you're saying, or I understand what you are saying. Try and refrain from statements like, I know how you feel. That would be helpful because honestly, we don't know how they feel, but when they share with us, we can understand because we can comprehend what they're saying. Another suggestion, give them permission to grieve and then validate their feelings. So provide your children and young people just a safe space to grieve and process, and let them know, what they are feeling. Each and every feeling is okay. One thing that I recommend that you do, depending on the age and maturity level of your child or your children, is do a wellness check-in with them. And at least like twice a week. So maybe like on a Monday and then like on a Thursday. So kind of, space it out. And then allow them to talk and share openly and honestly how they're feeling. And then just listen and then do not minimize how they are feeling. So an example of a wellness check-in will be that give them like a number system from like a 1 through 5, like a scale. So a 1 would be like horrible or awful feelings. Like a 2 is like not so good, struggling. A 3 is like an okay. And a 4 is, feeling pretty good. And a 5 is like great and then like awesome. That's, the feeling scale. And then just allow them to share without trying to solve or fix anything, and just attentively listen. And then if they're feeling like below a 3, ask, is there anything that you can do to help to bring their number up? Okay? And then another suggestion that I have, offer them support on their terms. Ask children and young people, like, what can I do to help? And then again, don't try and fix things on your terms or in your time. It's their grieving process. So remember that. It's not your process and how you do things, it's their grieving process. And so it's what they need to feel supported during this time. And then the next suggestion that I have for you, follow their lead in terms of what they may be going through and how they may be grieving. So do not try to force children or young people to grieve the way that you grieve, or force them into treatment, because they may not be ready for that. So follow their lead to healing. Okay? And then lastly, offer assurance and reassurance that things are going to be okay. And so while grief and loss are definitely painful, kids also need to know that it's a process and a cycle, and that there is hope in the end, and that things will be okay. So I just share with you that right now, as I want to be just mindful, and I have on my green pen and my green band, that it keeps me just focused and reminded that it's also Mental Health Awareness Month. So that please remember that asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Taking care of yourself is a sign of strength. So that if you need resources or additional support, I'm here and I'm available, and I can also be that resource for you. But then I can also direct you to other resources of support as well. On the blog, I have also provided additional resources specifically for grief and loss as well. And so they are there available. The links are there available for you on the blog as well. And so just during this time, just please reach out for anything that you may need. And then I just wish you positive health and emotional wellness during this time. Please take care.